Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Father Michael Bush. I am the rector here at St. Michael's Cathedral Basilica, and I welcome you to what promises to be a wonderful evening of sacred music. Tonight in Ottawa, every bishop in Canada has gathered to consecrate our country to the Blessed Virgin Mary. While not able to be with us personally, Cardinal Collins has asked me to extend a warm welcome on his behalf to the Sistine Chapel Choir, to Deputy Mayor of the City of Toronto, Denzel Min Wong, Toronto City Councillor Christian Wong Tam, and he also expresses his prayers and best wishes to all those gathered for this special concert tonight. One of the great longings in our world today is the hunger for beauty. Of all the beautiful and iconic works of art produced by the Church, none is more beautiful and edifying than its music. In a world that is so full of mediocrity, banal images, and art forms that are void of a sense of life, we are constantly seeking ways to nurture our soul. This sacred music, which is at once both simple and complex, will touch us with its beauty, joy, and life. It is the work of humans, but it expresses the sounds of heaven. We are very fortunate to have attached to our cathedral St. Michael's Choir School. Their dedication to the preservation and promotion of the sacred music of the Church is well known, nationally and internationally. We are pleased that they have the opportunity to be a part of this concert tonight. Before we begin, I invite Mr. Stephen Hannigan, the director of St. Michael's Choir School, to come forward and share a few words with us.
Thank you, Father Bush. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, special guests and choristers. It is such an honor for me to welcome you all to this magnificent Cathedral Basilica for this very special concert. This year, St. Michael's Choir School celebrates 80 years of service to this Cathedral Basilica and to the Archdiocese of Toronto. In terms of the history of Canada, St. Michael's Choir School is well established and highly respected. As an institution, we are more than half as old as the country itself. However, when we compare ourselves to the Sistine Chapel Choir, we are but mere infants. The history of the Sistine Chapel Choir stretches back some 1,500 years, 10 times as long as Canada has existed. The Sistine Chapel Choir serves as a role model for excellence in sacred music for our boys and indeed to the entire world. We are truly honored and humbled to welcome them here this evening. We had a wonderful day collaborating with the Sistine Chapel Choir. After a visit earlier today to Ripley's Aquarium and the CN Tower, the Sistine Chapel Choir enjoyed a luncheon at the choir school where we had the opportunity to spend some fun time together. And we discovered that we have so much in common. We made wonderful memories that will forever be in our minds and hearts. I want to thank the Sistine Chapel Choir for their warmth and for their friendship. Tonight's concert is the inaugural concert of a new concert series taking place here in this beautifully restored Cathedral Basilica. In your program, you will find a brochure, like this, describing the 9 concerts that will take place this year. We hope that you will return again and again to experience magnificent sacred music in this magnificent space. You will also find a donation envelope that will be collected at the exit doors at the end of the concert. The suggested donation for each concert in the series is $25, and tax receipts will be issued for all donations of $25 or more. You can also go online to make your donation, and all of this information is included in the back of the St. Michael's Concerts brochure. I also want to let you know that various CDs of the Sistine Chapel Choir and St. Michael's Choir School will be available for sale at the south entrance following the concert. The choir assembled before you consists of St. Michael's boys from grade 7 to 12. Under the direction of Mr. Peter Mon, the choir will perform 4 pieces that are near and dear to our hearts. They will begin with a piece by Richard Daring in honor of our namesake, St. Michael. They will also sing Mozart's beloved Ave Verum Corpus and Edgar Bainton's And I Saw a New Heaven. The final selection by Toronto composer Healy Willan is his very beautiful and moving Behold the Tabernacle of God. In the interest of creating an atmosphere of meditation and concentrated listening, we kindly ask you to please turn off your cell phones and please refrain from using flash photography. Thank you and enjoy the concert.
Good evening, and welcome to this concert of the Sistine Chapel Choir from the Vatican City. You have just heard the plain chant melody of the introit of the third Sunday of Advent, Gaudete in Domino, Rejoice in the Lord, as notated in the Graduale triplex published in 1979 by the Benedictine monks of Solesmes, France. Tonight, the Sistine Chapel Choir will perform a program featuring a selection of the best works of Renaissance polyphony. Together, these works provide an opportunity for an intense spiritual journey through the main feasts of the liturgical calendar. We ask that you refrain from applause between works until the end of the concert. Our spiritual journey continues now with Benedixisti Domine, the antiphon for the offertory of the third Sunday of Advent. This polyphonic setting by Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina is taken from one of his best-known collections by the Roman master, which also includes the offertories for the entire liturgical year in two parts. It was originally published in Rome on the 1st of August, 1593, and subsequently reprinted in 1594 and 1596. The text is from the second verse of Psalm 84, a reminder of the spiritual gifts that come from waiting for the Lord, freedom from the slavery of evil, and the forgiveness of sin. Magnificat primi toni, or of the first mode, is a setting by Orlando di Lasso of the Gospel Canticle of the Blessed Virgin Mary, which is recited at the daily office of Vespers. It is Mary's hymn of praise to God, which takes on special significance during Advent, and in particular during the 9 days after Christmas, when the various plain chant melodies of the Magnificat are preceded and followed by strikingly beautiful antiphons. Mary, patient and obedient, intones the Magnificat as a hymn of thanksgiving to the Lord, who fulfills through her, a humble servant, the promise of salvation made to Abraham and his descendants. In the canticle, Mary turns her loving gaze to countless generations of Christians, the new Israelites who will experience God's mercy, destined to all those who fear him. Magnificat Primi Toni is from Orlando di Lasso's first book of Magnificats, published in Nuremberg in 1567. The text comes from the famous episode of Mary's visit to her cousin Elizabeth, mother of John the Baptist, as narrated in the Gospel according to Luke.
Anima mea Dominum. Quia respexit humilitate mancille sue, et cenim ex hoc beatam medicent omnes generationes. Et misericordia eius a progenie in progenies, timentibus eum. Deposuit potentes de sede, et exaltavit humiles. Suscepit Israel puerum sum, recordatus misericordiae suae. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto.
By the rivers of Babylon they sat weeping as they remembered Sion. By recalling the exile of the Jewish people, Psalm 137 speaks of the exile of every man from truth, from peace, and the life abundant from which every man is separated, yet desperately seeks and deeply desires. In the Christian liturgy, Lent is the period of 40 days that precedes Easter. The Lenten season is a time to return to God, to the truth, and to our real home. Super Flumina Babylonis by Palestrina is a setting of the first two verses of Psalm 137. The work is taken from his second book of motets for four voices, published in Milan in 1587 and reprinted in Venice in 1604. Psalm 50, Miserere mei Deus, is recited frequently during the period of Lent, particularly during Holy Week. It is the most famous of the penitential psalms and cherished by Christians as one of the most beloved devotional texts of all time. The composer, Gregorio Allegri, was a Roman composer and singer in the Sistine Choir and lived from 1582 to 1652. Allegri's Miserere has continued to move its listeners to deep feelings of devotion, particularly during the Good Friday liturgy, ever since it was first composed. It is even said that a young Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, after hearing it in the Sistine Chapel, transcribed it entirely from memory. One of the distinguishing features of this work is its formal structure: 3 performing units in dialogue with one another, a choir of 5 voices alternating with a quartet of soloists, with congregational singing of the plain chant melody. The text of Allegri's Miserere is taken from Psalm 50. The music is from the earliest manuscript, the Sistine Codex of 1661, preserved in the Sistine Chapel section of the Biblioteca Apostolica Vaticana, the Vatican Library, manuscript number 205 to 206. In addition to the original version by Allegri, the Sistine Choir will perform 2 stanzas from the later setting, which is now universally known for its famous high C's. The choral parts of this later version were published in 1771 by one of the first historians of Western music, Dr. Charles Burney, in his account of the music sung during Holy Week in the Sistine Chapel. The solo parts are from the edition by Robert Haas in 1932, based on the essay Miserere by William Rockstro from the 2nd volume of the Grove Dictionary of Music and Musicians, 1880. In this performance, the higher solo parts are sung by adult male singers in the falsetto register and not by boys, in line with Renaissance performance practice. suffering on his shoulders and bore our pain. His suffering healed us. Such is the mystery of the Christian God, whose fulfillment of the Incarnation inscribes in his flesh all our struggles and pains, as well as our often contradictory and unresolved lives. In him we can heal, give meaning to our lives, and bring light into our darkness. We can place our lives and our histories in the path of truth. Vere Languores Nostros by Tomás Luis da Vitoria. The text comes from the Office of the Holy Week, published in Rome in 1585. In the midst of the silence and turmoil of Good Friday, the Church delivers to us a short antiphon reminding us that the cross is not the end of everything, but the instrument of our redemption. Our personal cross, which we may see as our weakness, turns out instead to be the great, silent, and incomprehensible gift of the salvation of God. The only way for us to become the men and the women that we can and must be is to live through our weaknesses, carrying them with us as we are slowly healed in a life journey that is often mysterious and incomprehensible. Adoramus te Christe by Orlando di Lasso is from his Magnum Opus Musicum, published in 1604, 10 years after the composer's death. This next piece is perhaps the most celebrated of all of Palestrina's motets. Taken from the first two verses of Psalm 41 and traditionally used in the Christian liturgy during the Paschal Vigil for the procession to the baptismal font, it kindles the soul's desire to come to the spring of the living water of baptism, the gift of new life in Christ. Sicut cervus desiderat ad fontes, like as the heart desires the water brooks, so longs my soul for thee, O God. This setting also comes from Palestrina's second book of motets for four voices, printed in Milan in 1587 and reprinted in Venice in 1604. Psalm 80, Sing joyfully to God our strength, expresses the joy of Easter with reference to a number of musical instruments, the drum, the citern, the tuba. In this motet, Palestrina imitates in the vocal writing the sounds of instruments played in joyous celebration for the day of solemnity. Exultate Deo is from the 5th book of motets for 5 voices, published in Rome and Venice in 1584. For centuries, the chant antiphon Tu es Petrus has marked each and every entrance of the Pope in the Sistine Chapel and in the Vatican Basilica. The antiphon echoes the liturgy of the 29th of June, the solemnity of Peter and Paul, patrons of Rome and pillars of the universal Church. The intricate and massive polyphony of the motet reflects the grandiosity of the new Basilica of St. Peter, which was in construction at that time, and which houses the Apostles' tomb. The words are the same as those emblazoned around the dome of St. Peter's Basilica. It was Christ himself who uttered those words in Caesarea as a reply to Simon, who had declared his profession of faith. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. On that occasion, Jesus changed the name of the apostle from Simon to Cephas, the rock that he chose as the foundation of the church community and as a symbol of stability. This final piece, Tu est Petrus, by Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina, is from the 2nd book of motets for 5, 6, and 8 voices, published in Venice in 1572 and reprinted in 1573 and 1577.
Thank you very much for your magnificent hospitality. It is the first time in its long history that the Sistine Chapel is in Canada. Never before. Thank you very much indeed. So we are honored to get our first concert in Canada, in Toronto, in this magnificent cathedral. Thank you. We really hope that this moment, this concert, the contact with early music and its spirituality help you to grow in your God experience and your faith. I think it's good that we offer you another motet music, and we want to offer you a motet by Claudio Monteverdi in the year of his anniversary. It is Cantate Domino. So, by Claudio Monteverdi, Cantate Domino.